Hi everybody, I'm Susie Stonefield Miller, midwife to your creative spirit, and I just want to tell you about my travel art journal kit that I took with me on my recent trip to France. It just has a few items, fits into a backpack or a purse, and it really keeps me sane and happy on my trips wherever I tend to go in the world. So I want to share that with you. I'm going to switch the camera over and show you everything that's in it. Okay, so I'm going to show you the 3 different pieces that I bring with me on my trips that are part of my travel journal kit. So the first piece is the sketchbook. The second piece is a little bag with some supplies in it that has zippers. The little bag has zippers. And the third piece is the backup little kit for my palette. And my palette, you didn't see, it was tucked into my sketchbook. That's one of the really cool things about it, is that it just fits right tucked in here. So the first thing is the sketchbook. This is a Moleskine watercolor sketchbook. And watercolor means that the paper is really stiff, thick, and able to take a lot of really wet stuff on it. And so as you can see, I painted a lot with watercolors and sketched with a pen. I also used a little bit of collage, and all of that is fine with a watercolor sketchbook. There are other brands that are about the same size, and I forgot to say, the size is about 8 by 5 inches. So the thing that is really fun about taking a sketchbook like this is being able to just whip it out of your purse or your backpack, sit down on a park bench and do some sketching. Or like I did here on my tray table on my flight home. It was a great way to pass the time. What I do is I bring a set of watercolors and a paper towel with me and just stick it into my sketchbook. So these watercolors are really special. They're very unusual. They're called Peerless watercolors. And what they are is a piece of paper for each of these colors. It's a piece of paper that's saturated with watercolor ink, I guess. I'm not exactly sure, just saturated with watercolor pigment. And then all you have to do is get it wet with a brush, and it turns into watercolor that you can use to paint your paintings. I have these pieces in between each of the palettes, and that you can see is where I mixed colors a little bit or made it a little bit more of a wash before I put it on my page. I made this palette. It was a little bit of a procedure. I thought it was worth it because the Peerless watercolors are just so awesome to take on the road because they don't take up any space at all. And it was really fun actually to make it. I used a laminating machine, my printer, some cardstock, and some washi tape to create this. Now there are lots of different people on the internet who can show you ways to make a Peerless watercolor palette. There are YouTube videos, so I might put a few links to that. With this, I could show you how I made mine, but honestly, I just don't really feel like you need me to show you because there are other people out there who've shown really great ways to do it. However, I do have a selection of colors that I really like. It's not the complete set of colors from Peerless. It's a little bit pared down selection, and I think it's a great selection. So if you want my palette to know what colors I use, then you can definitely download a PDF and print that out on cardstock to make the same template, the same palette that I have here. Okay, so when you're on the road, you just fold it up and stick it in your sketchbook. The thing that's cool about these little sketchbooks is they all pretty much have these little rubber bands. You can also just buy one and put one on, but even if they don't, it just stays right in there and it's really great. The other thing about taking the kit is just taking what you need, not taking too much. So in my little kit, I will show you what I have. And some of these things are unusual and some are just probably not things you've necessarily used before, but not that unusual. So first of all, oops, missing one thing. That is this. So first of all, I have a glue stick and a pair of children's scissors, and that is because children's scissors are rounded on the end, and so that means you can get them through airport security, which I think is nice because then you can do this on the plane. I like to do collage in my art journals in general, and even on the road I like to do collage. So you can see, let's see, just, you know, it's a great place to use a brochure or a ticket, or sometimes a little postcard or something, maps that you find. It's a great way to just sort of incorporate that into the work you do in your art journal. So having scissors and glue stick is fun to have. Another thing I love is a white gel pen, and this is a Uniball Signo gel pen. And I just think having white is great. It helps things pop out. And having a little bit more white is great with just one acrylic paint pen, not an oil-based one. Those just lead to trouble, especially when they leak. But a Molotow acrylic paint pen is great. This is a 2mm rounded tip, and it helps. Sometimes I like to have a little bit of white acrylic paint on my page, and just drawing with that means I can turn it into more white paint on the page. Another thing that's great to have is a pencil and eraser. So this is an mechanical pencil, which I like because it means that the lead doesn't just like get rubbed off on the inside of my bag or anywhere. So just make sure you have enough lead in there. And then this is an eraser, and a retractable eraser. So it's great to use and just same size as a pencil, so it fits easily in my case. These are some pens. They're black permanent ink pens. They are water fast. They are Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. There are others available. I like these. I think they're easy to use, and they stand up to watercolor paper. You can also use Micron pens or Staedtler pens. The Microns I find wear down very quickly. They must have sort of a little bit more delicate tips, but these Faber-Castells last pretty well. So I like to get a set with a variety of thicknesses of point. This is a medium. They have small, extra small, fine, broad, brush. You know, if you go to an art supply store, you'll see there's a whole selection. You can get little sets of them, but also you can just pick out the ones you want. So I like to bring a bunch of those. But the most important thing, I think, really are these. And these are the Aquash brush pens. They're from Pentel. You can get them on Amazon or at any art supply store pretty much. And what's great is they have a reservoir. You put water in it. And actually, I got through security at the airport with this, even with the water in them. So I'm not sure if that is just something they didn't worry about, or even if they had made me squeeze the water out, you can easily go to a water fountain or the bathroom and fill them up. And that's where you fill it up. And then you have watercolor brushes. So basically, I'll just show you how that works really quick. There we go. So just getting a little paint on my brush. And there you go. Paint in the watercolor book, in the sketchbook. So you can wipe your brush off on the paper towel or just keep going on the page till it's done. But that is how wonderfully easy these are to use. And they come in a set of 3, large, medium, and small tip or fine tip, and I highly recommend bringing all 3. And then the last thing I have in my little kit is this. It's a mini mister. It's literally a oops, it's literally a water mister. And that's important. If you've ever used watercolors before, you'll know that getting your whole page wet is often a great way to start. And so I like to have the mini mister to have that as an option. Okay, so there was one thing I did not show you, and that is a little bit different. That's the unusual thing I mentioned, and that is this little Altoids tin, which for some reason has Band-Aid on it. I don't know why, but it's just an Altoids tin that was empty. I found it in my house, but it's the perfect thing for this. And what this is a little container of extra green watercolor. Now, these are clearly not the Peerless watercolors that I used in the palette, but I'm going to show you what they are. So these are called Derwent Inktense blocks, and they are basically blocks of watercolor pencil pigments. And they work just like watercolors, like a little pan of watercolors. And the reason I brought them is that I just never have enough greens in a palette. There are several greens in the Peerless watercolor palette, but it is not enough greens for me. And then there's another thing that I don't have, and that is enough indigo blue, like a really good indigo blue. So what I did was I brought this little kit of colors so that I could have the greens I needed, so that when I was painting landscapes, if I was somewhere and I wanted to have that, then I could paint with gay abandon all the greens that were there. And I'm really glad that I did bring it, because I really found it to be fun to pull this out and explore the different colors. And in fact, I'm sort of curious about what it would be like to just bring little Altoids tins full of the, colors from Inktense blocks. I have a really big collection of them. You can buy them separately, or you can buy a set. And so anyway, this was just really fun. And I wanted to show you because I found it to be super useful and entertaining. So the last thing that I want to show you is this, and this is my backup kit for my Peerless watercolors. And Peerless watercolors come in these little kits of sheets of this saturated paper. And so in case, sometimes I do run out of a color, it gets used up on the little sheets in the palette, and so I wanted to back it up. And this is just so, there's just not that much. These are the 3 little kits that I purchased to make my whole palette. But it doesn't take up a lot of space. It just goes right in here. I just stick this, and this is a tape runner that I use to glue it to the palette. I use my scissor to cut them up. And honestly, this takes up no room in my suitcase. So I bring this along so that I have backup. So that, oh, and this is white, which, like I said, it's fun to have white. So this is my travel art journal kit, and I hope that you plan to create something like this on your own to bring on your trips. And I will have a list of all the materials in the link. If you click on this video, you'll get the list, and you can also get a PDF download for free. So enjoy, take your art on the road, and have some fun with art journaling. It's a great way